Tom, is that is that a quorum with Lauren up there? Can we start? All right. I want to start because I don't want to be here all night. Okay.
Can you guys hear me? Is my mic working for y'all?
I'm starting the meeting. Yeah. All right. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Dania Beach City Commission Hybrid Budget Workshop, Tuesday, August 30th, 2022 at 4 p.m. Can you please call the roll?
Mayor James.
Here.
Vice Mayor Salvino.
Here.
Commissioner Davis. Thank you. Commissioner Llewellyn. Commissioner Odman.
Present.
City Manager Garcia.
Here.
City Attorney Bootsis.
Here.
Okay. All right. So we'll go ahead and start with the budget presentation. City Manager Garcia.
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, commissioners that are here, members of the public, residents, and our great city team that's here with us. Before I turn it over to Frank, I wanted to communicate via a small preamble leading to the presentation and commend all of you, because what has led to the success of the city of Dania Beach has been because of the investment of time. When we embarked on our strategic master plan, there were hundreds and hundreds of hours that led to that meeting, throughout that meeting, and we continued to meet with you guys. I have never seen a group of elected officials be more involved than all of you, and you give so much of your time. All these one-on-ones that we had regarding the budget, regarding the strategic master plan, the passing of our first ever Parks Master Plan. What I wanted you to know that those past master plans have led to not just a record amount of grants, but by saving taxpayer dollars, we have been able to build the largest reserves in the history of the city. And we're about to turn 120 years old. The passing of your strategic master plan has also led to this budget book that you see in front of you. But the fact that we won our first ever budget presentation and we're honored statewide is because our budget is no longer a bunch of numbers and a bunch of pages, but our budget tells a story of action based on the priorities of your strategic plan. And one thing I wanted you to know, and one thing that I wanted the public and the taxpayers that are watching at home or will be listening to this meeting at a later date, is that in our city, we're not just spending money. There's a game plan and we're investing money. There's no other city that I know that has the level of reserves here, but that is going to be investing $45 million in parks. $45 million in parks is unprecedented for the city, that we're investing in our infrastructure, in our parks, in our street. For the past 2 years, we have 14 drainage projects going on. They're either in construction and fully completed. They're in construction now with a little bit of time to go before we're done, or they're in design phase. 14 drainage projects citywide, which was a big priority for the city. Extremely important is $100 million that we have invested and continue to invest in infrastructure, because that was your priority. And what does that $100 million in infrastructure mean? It means 5.3 miles of new roads and paved roads. It means more than 4,000 linear feet of brand new sidewalks. It means these old buildings that we had to close down are now shovels in the ground and projects that are coming to completion. So I just wanted you to know, and all that are watching at home, that this is a team, city team, commission team, that is about action and is about getting things done. So we're grateful to you, grateful to this team that's behind me, and really excited about the future and the opportunities. And with that said, I'm going to turn it over to our Chief Financial Officer, and that is Frank DePaulo. Thank you.
Nice job, Anna.
Thank you, Manager Garcia, and good afternoon, everyone here in attendance and those paying attention at home. Monica, can you please bring up the presentation? Okay, so one of the things that, and thank you very much, Manager Garcia, for the introduction and for the discussion of how we got here with this budget. I'm happy to be here in person with everybody because the last couple of years I haven't been able to do this in person with you in this kind of setting. So it's a truly is a nice thing to be here in your company. And what I wanted to first mention was we have this budget in brief document that everybody should have a copy of. This is something that we came up with a few weeks ago when we were discussing the budget. And what it is really a high level summary of everything that's in that budget book. And it's even a little bit more detailed than you might expect from a brief. But the problem is there's so much good stuff in there. We have to include it all. So last year, our budget was a focus on rising to challenges through our strategic planning efforts. As you know, we adopted a strategic plan last year. This year, the theme of the budget is the rising tide of Team Dania Beach. And this is something that was conceived up by the city manager's office, which is targeting purpose, effective management, activating efficiency, and mutual direction. And a lot of these concepts are themes throughout this budget book and those that are practiced by the city team here. Next slide, please, Monica. First, just talk briefly about the situation with our current year's budget, which is that we have no increase to our millage rate. This is obviously due to having a 12.5% increase in assessed values. And that is a combination of both a hot real estate market in South Florida and also the development that you're seeing in the city right now. So by maintaining our millage rate of 5.998, that brings an additional about $3 million into the budget. Our assessments are net decrease. We have a $17 decrease in the fire assessment for residential properties. We have no change to the stormwater assessment. And lastly, we have a $12 increase to the solid waste collection assessment. So really what you're seeing is no change in the operating millage. I didn't discuss the debt service millage, but that has decreased slightly because we have an increase in our values, but our debt service payment stays the same. So therefore, we're able to lower that millage rate. And then, like I said, we have a net decrease on all of our assessments. So across the board, taxpayers in the city are paying a decreased rate of taxes and assessments. You all know that there's a 3% Save Our Homes cap on homesteaded properties. So the average homesteaded property, based on the average value of a homestead property in the city, is going to see about a $30 increase in their tax bill this year. And when we see all the things that are being added, all the additional investments in infrastructure, the investments in personnel, public safety and recreation and everything else, I think taxpayers are getting a really fair deal from the city. Next slide. And talking a little bit about the economy, I mentioned the 12.5% increase over last year's values. We did have some new construction come online, but it was not a really significant number. We've had bigger numbers in the past when we didn't have this much commercial development. So, but you know, there's a lot of cranes in the air right now, so you're going to see more coming. It's not quite happening this year, but next year, potentially the year after and the year after that, you're going to see a lot more of that development coming on the tax roll. So the real key to take away from here is that the last 10 years, as we've come out of the recession of 08-09, and the city has not increased its millage rate, but we've seen that increase in taxable values over the years. And that's obviously becoming an increase to the budget because things are becoming more costly and we have addition of services, especially in the last 3.5 years under this administration. But it's key to remember that we're also in really good fortune financially. We have excellent financial health. We have our highest ever projected available fund balance in the general fund of $34 million projected at the end of this year. And that really is a testament to just good financial management of the city. And again, we're investing these funds. We're making all the right investments in the infrastructure and in personnel where it matters the most. Next slide, please. And this is really just an overview of some of the things that are going on right now, and especially in our economic situation. Um, the reason why we have these high reserves is because you have responsible elected officials that adopted a fantastic strategic plan. We have um, senior administrative team that's managing the funds in the city very well. You have the stability of our revenues, even though we had some decline from COVID. We've seen a tremendous recovery, and going forward, we're seeing increases in some of these revenue streams like we've never seen before. Also, due to some of the properties changing in the city and also in the state, but also because of the amount of tourism that we're seeing right now. Florida is blowing up right now, and especially South Florida. And then lastly, we have a lot of grants in this city. We have grants from FEMA, we have grants from the state, we have grants from DEP, we have congressional appropriations. All this money is just adding to the fact that the taxpayers are getting a really good bargain, because when we get these grants, and even if we have a small contribution, we're still getting far more than we would need to contribute, and that's saving the taxpayers money and allowing us to do these critical investments. Just to keep in mind, and I know all of you are probably aware of this, but inflation is a factor right now. Um, just like all of you are seeing an increase in costs for goods and services, we're seeing it here at the city. When we put out bids, the numbers are coming back higher than we anticipated. There's always a lag in the budget. When we budget these numbers based on estimates, and then 6 months later we put out a bid, chances are the cost could be higher just due to inflation alone. Even if it was well scoped out and we knew exactly what we needed and it was all done properly, we could still see an increase, and that's something that we just can't really do anything about that, except for when it happens, we adjust our funding and our budget and we move forward accordingly. There's issues in the supply chain of goods and services. There's issues in labor. We're seeing that in the city. We're seeing that with some of our contractors, and that's a real issue right now that hopefully will resolve itself in the next couple of years. And lastly, we have an aging infrastructure, and the replacement costs of those is increasing. So we're balancing all that. Like I said, we're getting grants, we're making the investments where they're appropriate, and we're doing our best to manage the taxpayer dollars. We've updated all of our financial policies this year. That was one of the items from the strategic plan. We've updated 3 so far, and the final one will be procurement. We're going to bring that forward at the next commission meeting. There'll be an ordinance and 2 readings. And what we're doing is we're increasing some of the thresholds, and that's going to allow departments to still continue purchasing goods and services, but it reduces the administrative burden and recognizes the fact that costs have gone up, and we have to be able to move through and get our job done without too much administrative burden. Next slide, please. A few of the key projects that were highlighted in the budget message, the city manager's budget message, and a few pictures there. It doesn't represent everything that's going on in the city, obviously, because we need about 100 pages. But these are just a few of the key things. And we have CW Thomas Park construction coming online this year. We have the Lucky Fish restaurant development. We have the sidewalk citywide rehabilitation program that's going on. We have the corridor beautification, Griffin Road, and all the new holiday lights and all the beautification efforts there. We have the art in public places. We have a policy, we have a fund, we have a way to raise the revenue, and now we have a committee. We have refurbishing of the pier going on right now. We have the huge southeast stormwater drainage project that's long awaited, and that's going to be beginning this coming year with significant funding coming through grants and other contributions. And then we have city streetlight implementation to help increase the safety in the city. And that's been another long overdue issue, but we have a combination of retrofitting existing solar lights, FPL adding lights, and then also increasing the number of solar lights throughout the city. Next slide, please. We've spoken to all of you about some of the changes in the workforce for this coming year. we're making a big investment in personnel. First off, the public safety investment, we have law enforcement addition of eight new law enforcement officers, 4 coming on October 1st, 4 coming on April 1st. And then we're investing in a minimum of 9 firefighter paramedics, and that's going to add a rescue shift at Station 1. It's the busiest station in Broward County, and that will be a great relief to the people that are working there right now. We've also applied for the SAFER grant through FEMA, and if we get that grant, we can increase that number from 9 to 14 for a full entire complement of personnel for that shift, and then it won't cost the city anything. And that grant will fund that for 3 years. So we will let you know once we hear about that. It should be coming in the next several weeks. And in addition to those positions, there's 9 new key positions in several of our operating and administrative departments, which we've discussed with you all in detail, and we really are excited about these new additions to the team and everything that's going to come along with that. We've also recommended a staggered start of these positions because it's difficult to recruit for 9 new positions simultaneously. And the other thing that we're asking for is for the 3 positions starting on October 1st, we want HR to begin recruiting immediately because we want to have people in the chairs as soon as possible, as soon as that fiscal year starts, if we can do that. We always end up adopting a budget, and then by the time we start recruiting and moving forward, we may not have people filling those roles until earliest November, maybe December, and then we're already kind of behind on things. So tonight, we're asking for just your consensus to move forward with that because it's something novel. It's something that we haven't done before. But as long as you're comfortable with the positions that are in the budget, that we can move forward with those recruiting efforts and then hopefully have people on board much faster than we normally would have.
And I wanted to add that through the mayor, we are in competition with 35 municipalities in Miami-Dade, another 31 municipalities in Broward, and about 100 municipalities between Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. So our goal is to hit the ground running in regards to advertising these positions, so we're able to get the cream of the crop.
Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. Just talking a little bit more about the workforce. If we want to recruit and retain the best, we have to have an excellent benefits package and competitive salaries. Last week, the City Commission adopted the CBA, collective bargaining agreement. So we've adopted negotiated pay increases, 8.5% for all employees, and all benefits, including the new benefits that are coming in this October. This organizational culture and the benefits package that we provide here at the city is geared towards today's workforce, and it puts the city in the best position to recruit and retain the best possible candidates. So this really is the foundation. I mentioned the team Dania Beach. This is the foundation because we can't do all these things without having the best people. Next slide. Talk a little bit about the numbers across the city. We have a budget of around $113 million. It's an increase of 10% across the board when compared to the 22 adopted budget. And this encompasses all operating funds and all activities. So it's from the general fund, building permits, solid waste, all of our utilities, all of our business operations at the pier marina and the parking, as well as our internal service funds for our city facilities and our city fleet and our information technology. Next slide. I think most people are probably aware that the largest operating functions are police and fire rescue. Public safety is of paramount importance. This is common throughout all municipalities. This is not unique to the city of Dania Beach. And then followed by public services and our utility departments, and then recreation. So the remainder is going to be our administrative departments, including community development and code enforcement. All these administrative functions like the city manager, city commission, city clerk, human resources, and finance, city attorney, we have smaller budgets than the other operating budgets, and they're all pretty much within the general fund, but we share the costs throughout the organization so that the water utility pays for its share of the city manager's time, and et cetera. So we do that plan every year. We update it to make sure that it's relevant and aligned with the actual operations. And lastly, the Community Redevelopment Agency is not shown here. It's funded from a transfer from the general fund and the general government division, and they will adopt their own budget. Next slide. Just wanted to give you a refresh on our strategic plan. The 2021 adopted strategic plan includes 5 pillars. We provide excellent municipal services in a financially sound and environmentally sound manner. We provide outstanding customer service and work in partnership with our community. So everything in the budget and everything that staff focus on day to day should be aligned with these priorities. Next slide. And then out of the strategic plan is our goals for 2026, which are a financially sound and responsible city providing services valued by the community, investment in upgrading city infrastructure and facilities, your hometown and Broward County a vibrant and sustainable community, and lastly, opportunities for leisure and cultural experiences. These organizational goals and all the following programs, investments, and initiatives from the current year, as well as this recommended budget for 2023 are aligned with these goals. A lot of them were mentioned or explicitly defined in their strategic plan, but others that are listed weren't, but they've been categorized into these goals. So I'm just going to run through a few of these initiatives that correspond to each of these organizational goals. Next slide, please. The first one being to financially sound and responsible city providing services valued by the community. The way that we provide services of value is having the right people on board. So a lot of the initiatives here are focused around our personnel and around more of the administrative side. But part of these were also outlined in the strategic plan, like, for example, issuing the $18 million bank loan for the C.W. Thomas Park construction and filling the senior administrative coordinator, who is our chief of staff, to the city commission. City employee policy manual has been updated. The RISE organization culture has been implemented citywide. So there's a lot of really interesting initiatives on there and accomplishments. And then coming in the budget year ahead, as I mentioned, we have a net decrease to all tax rates and assessments to taxpayers. We've added a few administrative positions that'll help make us a stronger operating environment. We're going to be completing the IT master plan and begin initiating smart city improvements that come out of that master plan. And then pursuing additional grants through our capital projects and grants manager, who's working on those right now. And then funding for design of the beach parking garage. Next slide. The next one refers to our infrastructure and facilities. This is really where you see a lot of the big projects and the big money getting invested throughout the city. Our pier refurbishment, the street lighting, our sewer lift station rehabilitation projects, all the drainage projects that you've seen completed, Ocean Park, Dania Cove, the whole southwest section, and a lot of the grant-funded programs for here at City Hall, the hardening here at City Hall and Fire Station 1 and the DSO Substation 803. And then we also have several upgrades at our water plant, as well as the water distribution system itself. Sidewalk master plan is taking off this year, a West Wing project expansion. And then for this coming year, we have additional interior improvements to our fire station and the police substation. We have funding for another Oasis project. We have sewer infiltration and inflow, more stormwater projects, beginning of the Southeast Stormwater Project, and just a host of other really important initiatives that were outlined in the strategic plan. Next slide, please. So to develop this vibrant and sustainable community, it's really built on the desire of all of you here to be a better place to live, work, and recreate within the city. So a lot of these are the beautification and public art efforts, including the Griffin Road corridor, the landscape master plan, the Beam team that started this year, our implementation of the public art program, and several other items there. And then for this coming year, we've added code enforcement officer position. We've added another beach ranger position. There's going to be a community development upgrade to the comprehensive plan, historic restoration of the historic homes next door, enhanced holiday lighting, lighting up of the federal highway, beginning that process for feasibility. Next slide, please. This last one is about opportunities for leisure and cultural experiences, and these are all really focused and revolve around the Parks and Recreation team. So, it starts in parks, really kind of encapsulates that. I think that I've heard that when I first came on board from the city manager, from Eric. And maybe this should have been the first slide if it starts in parks, but I went over to the strategic plan. So this was the fourth item. So again, we have the Parks Master Plan Phase 1 coming forward with the design of C.W. Thomas and the construction manager selection that's happening right now. and expansion of a lot of our after-school and summer camp programs, refreshing the parks at Tootie Adler. We're getting a grant for that, and then that's going to tie into the whole Lucky Fish and the North Lawn area campus over there, and successfully executing the first ever teen spring break camp and summer camp. So there's been a lot of activity going on in recreation, especially coming out of COVID, and people's desire to get out there and start using the parks again and interact with people. And then this coming year, we have 3 new recreation programs that are recreation positions that are budgeted. We're installing a new playground at Mulliken Park, design services for the Parks Master Plan Phase 2, because as we're moving forward with CW, we're going to start moving forward with the next phase of the Parks Master Plan, and then continued expansion of the athletics and sports programs in the city. The parks overall are undergoing a transformation, so they're going to become the place to be in Dania Beach once everything is done. And I'll discuss a little bit more about that when I get to the American Rescue Plan projects. Although the American Rescue Plan is not budgeted in this budget, we still have a tentative list that we'd like to get your authorization to move forward on a few of those key investments. Next slide, please. Just briefly to talk about the general fund, it's pretty well known that property taxes fund a significant portion of the budget. The number up there for taxes, that's about a little over half of the city budget. That's other taxes as well, but property taxes are almost $30 million of our $63 million general fund budget, so just about half. And then we have a bunch of other sources, so we have a pretty well diversified revenue structure. And the general fund, looking at the numbers, it's really only grown by about 8% when we compare back to our amended 2020 budget to this proposed for 2023. But our property values have increased by 22%. So that those property values increases are not really fully supporting the budget. It's really a matter of balancing all these revenues and understanding which ones are going to be persistent for the future. Like we had an issue with interest rate. Interest rates plummeted, so we weren't really getting any return on our investment. Well, now we're refocusing that as we're coming into a higher interest rate environment, and we're going to be getting several $1 million a year in investment returns on our idle cash. Next slide. As I mentioned earlier, public safety, as it is citywide, it's also the largest part of our general fund budget, and then again followed by public services. General government's a little high because that contains a few other items. It's sort of like a catch-all. It includes our transfer to the CRA and some other things that we transfer out to other funds. But then recreation is also a significant part. So really the biggest parts that we're investing in right now is our public safety, our public services, and recreation. Next slide. Just to talk briefly about our reserves in the general fund. I mentioned earlier that they've grown to an all-time high level. We adopted a new reserve policy this fiscal year, and what we are in compliance with that policy. We actually are supposed to have a minimum of 25% of our total operating budget in our general fund reserves, and we actually have almost 40%. So we have a very well funded reserve, and that's in addition to our $8.3 million disaster reserve, which is available in the event of a hurricane or some other type of catastrophe. And that also is through our policy, it's to maintain at least 20% of our general fund total fund balance, and that's $8.3 million. Next slide, please. Just talk a little bit about the American Rescue Plan. We brought this to you a few months back. We had a workshop with our department directors and key leadership in the city. We've been working with our consultant on a few of these programs to start really scoping things out. And there's a few of these that are ready to go that we want to start moving forward. There's a few that the timing isn't quite there yet, and we're going to hold back. But for example, there's a new one on here that came out of our workshops with the staff, which is a residential home hardening program that allows for the city to provide some type of funding towards residential resiliency improvements on their homes. So their roof, their windows, their doors, things like that. They'll end up saving money on their homeowner's insurance, and they'll have a home that's better protected. So, resiliency really is a big initiative right now, and this would be a great way to contribute towards that. And we have money for business matching grants. We have funding for affordable housing programs in here. We have funding for the Nyberg Swanson restoration project, and we're also looking at getting some grant funding. There's a pretty significant grant through the state that we're going to apply for. I mentioned the IT master plan, moving forward with some of the smart city initiatives. So the great thing is we can adopt that master plan, and then we have $2 million set aside right here to begin some of these new infrastructure improvements for IT, as well as smart city programs. Public safety EOC, Emergency Operations Center, that's something that the city desperately needs. We have $2.5 million of funding here. And we also have some of the funding that's coming in directly from C.W. Thomas Park through our congressional appropriation, and some of that funding that we borrowed can be utilized here for this public safety campus. I know that the Olson Park land, Olson Middle Park land that's there, we're working right now with them, and you're all aware to get an agreement to have a shared use of that property and expand our park space in the city. And we can also utilize this funding to buy additional park space in the city. Another item that came up of high interest was developing an arts and entertainment district out here along Southwest First Avenue. So there's some funding in there to seed that project and get it started. And then we have traffic calming and pedestrian safety, as well as the City Hall campus. There's been a conceptual idea of increasing the green space here at City Hall and across the street, and developing a place where people can gather, have a really, fountains and green space, maybe a performance stage and other amenities. And that will complement some of the events that we hold here at City Hall. The key here is we have $16 million and the money is here and it's available. And if we have your permission to start moving forward, we really want to, because a few of these are virtually shovel ready and ready to hit the ground. Okay, next slide. I'm going to breeze through the enterprise funds a little bit quickly. The key here is that we're investing in our water, we're investing in our sewer utility, we're investing in our stormwater utility. Our public services team is working with all the other parties that are involved. We have, we work with the city of Hollywood, and a lot of these utility issues, when we make investments now, we can save money in the long run by having a more resilient sewer system. We're not having infiltration and inflow, and then we're not sending infiltrated water to be treated. So that'll save the city money in the long run. So there's really key, strong, sound investments that'll save us money over time. And we're applying for a lot of grants for these projects. Okay, next slide. The enterprise funds also includes our pier, parking fund, and marina. The pier is undergoing the rehab right now. The parking fund, we're going to be doing beach parking lot paving. It's an $800,000 project. The utility undergrounding is going on. We did the drainage project there. And then our marina is a stable and self-sustaining business operation. Next slide. Governmental funds, that includes really just all the other funds that are out there. That's our debt service fund, which our budget increased slightly because we had the C.W. Thomas loan come online, and we're making payments on that this coming year. And this also includes our building department. The building permit revenues have to be isolated and can only be used for the building permit function. And a few other smaller funds in the city, our solid waste fund, which is our residential solid waste collection. As I mentioned earlier, that's going to go up by $12. So it's about $1 a month increase to taxpayers, but we want to make sure that fund is sound and the funding is available for additional services when needed. Next slide. Just to remind you, we have 3 internal service funds. We created them this fiscal year with this 22 budget. And what it is our facilities, fleet, and information technology. These are service providers within the city. So we created these funds that are a pool of resources, and we moved those activities over there. So now we have a way that we charge out the cost of the other funds, and every fund pays for their share of the cost of the personnel and all the improvements. And this is creating a really resilient way to fund all these activities. And we have proactive management of these critical operating divisions now because the funding is available. It's not scattered throughout the city budget, and we have more effective allocation of these resources. So really happy with the performance of these funds as we wrap up the start with this first fiscal year. And that's it. So I just want to thank all the finance staff who assisted, all the department directors and their teams that are here, the direction of our city manager and our deputy city manager, and of course, you all, the city commission, for providing this environment to prepare a budget like this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I guess we can start with any questions. Anyone have any questions about any of the positions, the added positions, so we can knock that out?
I do have a question about the athletics coordinator, Director Brown. I, it was under my assumption that those duties were being taken by the superintendent. So what additional um, responsibilities would the athletic coordinator have that your current superintendent doesn't do?
Good afternoon or good evening, commission, city manager, city team. Well, the athletic coordinator position, because of the growth that we have in the city of Dania Beach and all of our parks, that coordinator will be responsible for all of athletics, as well as a 25,000 square foot building that's going to come on on board soon. That person would actually be responsible for all of the activity that goes on in there. Now, the superintendent have athletics, but the superintendent is not just athletic. The superintendent is the entire city when it comes to other operations and field operations as well. And the superintendent have no staff to assist them to do any of those tasks that need to be done. We have a football program that's going on now. Superintendent is running that program. So this athletic coordinator, and it's basically designed throughout the county um, to fit a mold where we have multiple well, when we have multiple athletic programs, we don't have just one person running those multiple programs.
Thank you. And that will come online in January, correct? February. February 1st. Okay. Um, and then the the officers that, and I've had this conversation with the city manager, and I fully support the addition of officers. I am going to tell you, I do want to see some type of deliverables tied to, what we're doing, because we do need the help, and I know we need the help, and I'm supporting the help, but I need to see a change. I need to see more more of these high profile cases solved, and definitely take a more preventative approach, as we discussed. But we can't. The uptick in crime has happened in our city, and it's it's discouraging, to be honest with you. It's discouraging as a leader, because regardless of who calls you all, I know they call the people that are elected, and so it's our job as leaders to hold everyone accountable. So I just hope and pray that with this addition of these officers, that we definitely see a change in how the trends are kind of going right now with that. Um, what other question did I have? I did have a question. Maybe for Fernando, um, about, and it deals with parks as well, with the maintenance and everything else as we are expanding. I do think that we need to look into possibly around that January, February mark, also adding an additional, I don't even know what they're called, but people that do the lines and manage all the fields, and we're getting additional sports and stuff. I think that they need a little more help in that area as far as, functioning in those bodies. So that's something to definitely pay attention to, and see if maybe we can add that, or add a position that can support that, as we get a new facility and start breaking ground, so that we are training them, and it's a seamless transition for that. Um, that is, and the same thing with our deputy director for human resources. I'll say the same thing. We support these positions, and you guys hire whoever you feel is most qualified. But I will say we need to be very intentional about who we are putting in places, in some of the most important places of our city, because it is a direct reflection on the rest of us. Commissioner Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Regarding the positions, since you started with the positions, you guys know that I love the beach more than anything. So I want to talk about the beach ranger position. They're adding an additional beach ranger position. And I spoke with the manager and deputy manager in depth. Um, because I want to make sure that we incorporate sensitivity training for these individuals. We know that we had a mishap or a blow up that ended up, not putting us in the best light. So I do know that our lifeguards have that training. I want to make sure that our beach rangers have that sensitivity training. In addition to that,
And can we include de-escalation training? I don't know if it's
yeah,
already there.
yeah, like the whole comprehensive
Yeah.
plan to have that, incorporated. I really would like to see, I know we talked about it before, the lifeguards give weekly reports to the director. I really want to see the accountability piece. I know we highlighted one of them, but to be able to make sure that the beach rangers are actually incorporating the things that we spoke about as far as their main job duties. I do now see them on the beach, on the actual beach. And I wanted to, I think last year we talked about midterm adjustment of the budget, having them have the ATV so that they can actually go up and down the beach and make sure that they are enforcing the ordinances and the codes. And that leads me to the smoking part because we did pass the smoking ordinance. And for me, it doesn't make sense to invest $45 million in parks and then accommodate smokers that do not keep our beaches pristine. So that's it for me.
You want to update the mayor and the commission on, on the trainings, the de-escalation, the sensitivity, and that's not something that's coming, but something that's already planned. You want to go over that?
That's correct, the manager. Candido Sosa Cruz, Deputy City Manager. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Absolutely, our discussion on the beach rangers with the city manager, all that was implemented. Uh, First task they do is hit the beach, the sand area, educate the residents, the visitors of the beach. The beach ranger an additional tool on our tool belt that be able to keep the beach clean, keep people safe. So thank you again for your recommendations, for your observations. And Mayor, same thing. When we had the discussion about this additional training that you wanted to see as far as de-escalating, as far as engaging the residents, as far as always maintaining a professional appearance and demeanor, we discussed that with the HR director, and she could provide some additional details. But all of that training is mandatory for all employees in the city, not just beach rangers, not just parking, not just code, but every single employee in the city will go through that training. It's already scheduled. Our HR director already discussed it with the trainer. The trainer already incorporated in the scope of work for the next training. There's already an enrollment, and when is it? I'll hand it over to Linda, but I just wanted to confirm that the recommendations you make to us, we are not just listening to it, we're also implementing it immediately.
For community facing positions, employees, or for all employees?
So, the training that we're incorporating, which is the advanced customer service skills and de-escalation, is for all employees. So we already had the classes planned. I think we've been doing multiple training classes throughout the entire year with professional trainers who are coming in, and we had our first one already, and then we have the rest of them that are scheduled later in this year. And we're actually, I spoke with him yesterday because we had requests to even do some Saturday classes for our on-call lifeguards and people who have a hard time with other jobs. So we're going to do that also. But all of our leadership knows that it's a mandatory session. It's a great program. If anyone wants to observe it, it's really wonderful, and it gets into a lot of different scenarios and hands-on type training. The feedback has been really, really good from our team.
Can you keep us abreast of when those trainings come up? Just have Maxine or somebody just shoot us a little tidbit on when
Yeah,
that happens.
sure. We have a whole list of courses that
Okay.
are scheduled through the remainder of the year. So I'll share that with Maxine so she can share it.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate it.
I want to add too that this training in this professional development it's also for the city manager, for all the department directors. Earlier, you were in my office, Commissioner Davis. There's even mandatory reading of books. Right now, all the senior team has mandatory reading of 2 books. Then we get together. There's actually tests at the end of the book. So we're lifelong students, all of us, and we're setting that example in every department. And some of this training in these books can also be available for all of you. I know that we did active shooter, something that I've done in all my cities for the past 10 years. We've done it here, and it's something I discussed with you, Mayor. So I know that we're working on a class and some time for the elected officials as well, correct?
Yes, and we also have a lot of the courses are really specific to management and supervisors because for the team to really be effective, it's very important that that our management team and our supervisors understand what the RISE culture is because they have to exude those qualities also. So we have all of that incorporated in our program for the it has been going on and it will continue for the rest of the year.
Thank you. Commissioner Llewellyn?
Just to add on to that, he basically answered my question, I think, but that training incorporates not just when they deal with a hostile situation or a difficult situation, but also like if like a code officer goes someplace and says something. Like I mean, it's how they're approaching people and how they're approaching residents, how they're approaching businesses, all of that. Because I that's something that I hear a lot about, and I have discussed that before with the manager.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, the de-escalation, a lot of it is when you're talking about de-escalation, you're talking about providing excellent customer service. And what does that mean? And that means on how we're treating each other and how we're treating the public, and what happens because everyone, I think, in public service deals with someone who is not always going to like receiving a ticket, or like the water bill that they're getting. So it's really, really important. And even our internal service departments, we're dealing with other employees, and we need to make sure that we know how to do that professionally and calmly. And again, they're not carrying weapons on the beach, so they need to be able to understand how to deal with difficult situations and make sure that anything that's happening, they know how to bring down the level, and that's really what this
Or
de-escalation
and not
is.
create a worse situation than what is
Yep.
actually there. Because I mean, sometimes if you it's all on how you approach a person. If you approach somebody, you know, a little more hostily, then you may get that sort of response. If you approach them nicer, they won't necessarily respond that way. You have a better conversation and can actually address things. So that's
And it takes some practice because it doesn't come naturally to everyone.
right.
And some people are very intimidated by that. So it's important that this training, it's a 3-hour course. It's not going to be the last course that they have, and there'll be continued training on everything that we do because we understand the importance of we really must provide customer service at the end of the day. That's what it is.
And we practice what we preach. I've been in cities where you have a lot of irate residents because of the lack of responsiveness. We're constantly responding to irate residents, be it at night or on the weekends. And I'm not going to mention their names. We'll discuss that, but you all know because you guys forward us things, and even these residents, they've seen the quick turnaround and how patient we are, but how we give them the time and find solutions, and we're able to turn challenging situations where the resident is irate about something, we end up, you know, taking things into a very positive direction.
We've made it easy. We continue to try to make it easy for our residents to tell us what we need to do and how we
Right.
can help them. So we have like the Ask Dania Beach app that has customer service where they can report an accident, they can report any issue that they're having, and we can react quickly.
Thank you. Next, I guess we can hop over to the American Rescue Plan since these things were time sensitive.
Yes.
I actually had a conversation during my budget meeting about one of the programs or something that I wanted to do, maybe a community benefits program to help residents citywide with different things like their roof or windows or certain expenses. And then Frank told me that they already had this plan, and so I want you to go by and tell us which ones you need consensus for. That way we can get that out of the way.
Just starting from the top, obviously the consultant, we have those ongoing services. We're going to continue with that. The COVID related PPE, supplies and sanitation, Linda worked directly with them, came up with an overall budget to spend down that $400,000 on various initiatives over the next couple of years. The home hardening program, if you all are comfortable with that, our consultant's been running a similar project in North Lauderdale, and it's wildly successful. And they will administer the program for us so that we're not the ones collecting applications and making those award decisions. They're going to basically be filtering them out according to the program guidelines that are established. And it works really well that way. So we definitely want those first three. The business incentives and potential matching grants, that would be for business assistance. I know that's very vague in general. Outdoor dining and maybe environmental incentives. So that's something that could be cooked up a little bit more, I think.
Okay, so I have a question. The consultant, this is their price, correct? So is that including administering the residential hardening program? Or is that an additional fee?
My goal is that the 500,000 listed there will be money given to recipients, and that the fund, whatever we pay the consultant, would come out of that top line budget that we've provided for them. So I want to work with them to develop a flat fee per application to make it as cost effective as possible.
Okay, and then the business incentives and matching grants. Um, yeah, that is vague. I do think that we need some type of business initiatives or incentives, I'm sorry, in order to try and create that outdoor dining space so we can have a walkable type of downtown. I think I'm definitely in favor of the outdoor dining, but I wanted more information on the business assistance and environmental incentives. I don't want to cross what the CRA may be doing. I don't see him here, but I don't want to cross those paths of what he may be doing and what those plans are. But I'm in favor of business assistance and environmental incentives. But could you elaborate on that?
As Frank steps away, it's open for discussion. We had discussed how limited we are in regards to outdoor dining. And you all had always talked about your environmental concerns that business can do to save electricity, to mitigate the consumption of water. But as we continue to evolve as a city, just like I spent the afternoon with Commissioner Davis, we also thought about, the arts and entertainment district, how we could partner with local business in the arts and entertainment corridor to bring more art. I believe I was speaking to the mayor about a local building that has such a great wall, that's a great canvas. So I think that we're not fixated on this, but we could expand in regards to what we can offer in regards to a matching grant. But we know how much you guys, care about outdoor dining, the environmental component, in mitigating savings there, that will in turn allow the businesses to employ more individuals and grow the business. But also, I think anything having to do with art, landscaping, and beautification that's also aligned with your priorities, safety. One of the conversations that the mayor and I were having, and we've been having, is cameras and how can we, be more effective in mitigating crime. So if there's a local business and we want to partner with them because they want to put cameras that can help us mitigate crime or resolve crimes, or they can beautify because they're adding landscaping or art in public places, I think that we should be open to that and have some key priorities in how we want to partner with businesses. Go ahead, Frank.
Just as a follow up to that, the first group, if you look at the top maybe six through water, sewer, stormwater, those
Mhm.
are all part of the core American Rescue Plan guidelines. So those business incentives and matching grants have to be aligned with specific like rules about how we can spend the money. It's a
Mhm.
little bit more restrictive. It has to do with assistance to small business community, not-for-profits, aid to impacted industries that were impacted by the pandemic. So, but there's ways that we can word things to make it kind of fit into that category. I just don't know how expansive it can be. Like if we're talking about murals and beautification, But I know for a fact that anything that revolves around assisting the business community get back on its feet again
Is
can
that just,
qualify.
is that just something that we could come back to and really detail what we want the program to look like? I guess is my question.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think that one needs to be workshopped a little bit more before we move it forward. I feel more comfortable about the home hardening one. They really have, community development had a lot of meetings with our consultant and kind of worked out the ins and outs of how that could work.
And we'll take a look in regards to safety, how safety can incorporate it. We'll look, Frank will look at it, and our consultants will take a look at it as well.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? I have one more question, but does anyone have any questions about anything on this list that they gave us, the American Rescue Plan list? I do have another question about the Arts and Entertainment District. Again, I don't want to duplicate efforts. And I know that the last CRA meeting, they spoke about a plan that they have as well. And I don't know if this is within the same thing, if you all are working together. How
Mayor,
much,
so you know, eh, about what, Candido, like 5, 6, 7 months ago, we set up a meeting with the CRA director, and that was the first time that we discussed the Arts and Entertainment District. Actually, it was Candido's idea. So we discussed this with Mike, but it's just our nature to just be doers. And so, however we can help, whether we have to take the front seat or be the pilot or the co-pilot, but when we're looking globally at everything that we do, it's something that we want to maximize grants and opportunities. But you want to talk a little bit about how that conversation originated?
well, I really want to know if it's going to be this, if this is $500,000 that you all are doing something with, and if there is an additional ask from the CRA. That's what I mean. Like, I don't, are these separate projects? Is this a collective project? Or are
That's
the
what I,
scopes?
that's
Go
what I
ahead,
wanted to
Candido.
answer, Mayor. That it's different because right now it's just a regular street. So when we sat down with the CRA, we talked about lighting, the unique lighting to be able to identify the art and entertainment district. We talked about widening the sidewalk. We talked about the street. We talked about special landscaping. So it's going to take a global look from the city and the CRA to actually reach its goal. So this is not being duplicated. It's actually the first step, the first initiative to start targeting the actual district.
Okay. Frank, has the CRA put any monies into a line item for a proposed budget for the Arts and Entertainment District? Has there been conversation of that? I guess I'm really trying to get the money part. Yes.
I don't see the CRA director, but I don't recall if there's been specific seed funding put in for an arts and entertainment district, but I know that it's been discussed.
Okay. Hold on. I'll let Commissioner Llewellyn.
Sort of,
Go ahead.
that's kind of where I was going with it too. I believe that there is a line item. I recall seeing it at our last meeting, when I was reviewing that there was, it looked like there was something in there, but I don't think he has it listed as Arts and Entertainment District. He has it listed as something else, but I think it's all the same thing. But I mean, I was just gonna say that I think some of the things will overlap, but there's definitely gonna be things that are city only, that would go under the city no matter what. So you can't just do that without involving the city. So you're gonna have to have different line items from different people. So if he doesn't have a line item in there for it, then he's gonna probably need to have one. So,
Right? Our goal is
Thank
more,
you.
Mayor, Commissioner, the infrastructure. We want to look at pedestrian friendly. We want to, today we were meeting in regards to expanding art, expanding parks opportunities. So it's going to be beyond what we've put. So there might be other details that the CRA is doing, but we've discussed this with them.
No, that's fine. I just want to know who the champion is for the project and where that lies and how that's all going to go. And understanding that we all need to work together on a lot of these projects. Because I'm gonna propose a project that I want you and the CRA to do together as well. But it's just a little confusing. It's confusing when we haven't had the budget discussion with the CRA yet. And so, we have this, and I'm not married to who is doing it. That's I don't have a dog in that fight. I just want to make sure that, okay, if you're saying landscaping and stuff, I don't even know what the CRA has in plan in mind if they have the landscaping and things. Did y'all have a did we have a meeting yet as far as these next steps of it?
We met with the CRA and discuss the importance of this. We haven't seen their budget, but they can champion it and we can take a back seat. We just want to be involved because when it comes to
Of course.
infrastructure and lighting and streets and sidewalks, we're doing it everywhere in the city. So
Mhm.
we have those resources and we have the expertise. We have a city engineer. We're working on a city, lighting master plan. So we'll follow your lead, but we'll be more than happy to work with them as well.
Okay, I see, Commissioner Ottman's hand is raised. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
well, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I mean, I was just going to say, Mayor, I had those same thoughts. And, historically, the CRA and the city have not been able to, work well together. And that's just how it's been. So I think, I was trying to figure out as well, like whose project is this, but I think that's really going to be up to them. I mean, we'll just have to sort of see, because it will involve them having meetings and to figure out, okay, you're doing the landscaping, you're doing this, or whatever way they decide makes sense for them to be successful in the project. But I think we'll also have to continue this conversation at the CRA budget thing, workshop, and it'll make more sense then. That was just
Agreed, because I just feel like if we have the monies in the American Rescue Plan, we don't need to put monies into the CRA from our general fund. That doesn't make sense. And I guess that's what I'm asking. That's why I'm asking the questions
Yep.
that I'm asking. I don't know off the top of my head what that line item is or what is even called from the CRA budget. But I don't want to take $500,000 from our general fund and give to the CRA if we have ARPA monies that we can dedicate to that. Right.
There's no specifically defined arts and entertainment investments other than the commercial facade grant program and business attraction. These are some of the ongoing programs in the CRA, nothing relating to an A&E district.
So he didn't even plan for it in the.
But did
go
it
ahead.
with the whole presentation? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Isn't that what that presentation, maybe it was maybe 2 meetings ago, and everyone, there was people who came up and they talked about their business. Wasn't that, and I guess I'm asking my colleagues or whoever knows the answer, wasn't that the presentation from the CRA of part of their arts district?
It was a presentation, but I don't know if any hard funds was tied to that, and if it was planned for in the budget. So that's where I am. Go ahead,
There-
Commissioner
I
Llewellyn.
was gonna say, there's a separate section in that budget that had a few things listed in it. Again, he created a whole separate section that listed new programs or new issues or whatever. It's not listed there. I thought I'd seen it there.
Okay,
I just don't have it in front of me, so I don't remember.
all right.
I have the line item budget.
No,
Um,
obviously.
Yeah, I just have the line item budget in front of me with the numbers. I don't have that other thing.
Okay, Vice Mayor.
Um, the Arts and Entertainment District is something that we need to move on forward. I would think that we have more ability to move forward with the city staff than we do with the CRA. The CRA has got a lot of other projects working, and if we start with this approval, if they double it up, we just take it out of the budget from the CRA. If there's other line items that come into play that are an improvement for the Northwest Southwest, Art Walk, then we could fund it a little bit more through the CRA at that point. But if they're different, I think the idea here is just to change that area and make it and improve it as quickly as possible under whoever can take the reins and go with it. So I'm in favor of giving the money as long as it's not doubled up. But I think someone needs to grab it and go and not put it off any longer. That's all.
I agree. Commissioner Davis.
I was basically going to reiterate what the vice mayor said, and so we don't want to just make sure that we're not duplicating the efforts on that. And then I had a separate question about Olson. So does anybody want to keep going on about the Arts and Entertainment District, or can we move forward
Well,
with?
okay, so we're gonna check. Anyone has any issues with the consultant? COVID. I'm gonna go down. Everyone
Okay.
that have an issue, just say something.
Okay.
The residential home hardening. the business incentives and matching grants is gonna come back to us, but just to approve it so that they know that that's correct, Frank, right?
Anything on here will come back to the city commission for formal approval. And just so the concept is fully baked and you're fully aware of what we're doing. Plus, a lot of these involve procurement and thresholds, and we
Got it.
have to come back.
Okay. Affordable workforce, housing and land acquisition, water, sewer, and stormwater. I have a question. Is this gonna ensure that we have enough water so we don't come back and say we need to do this or do that because we don't have enough water? I don't wanna hear that no more.
This funding is so here's the short answer to that. Yes,
Okay,
a lot of the projects that public service is working on right now is to ensure the water supply is sustainable and that we're going to be able to provide water to residents and pull that water away when after it's used. This funding is here as a placeholder because we're allowed to use a portion of the ARPA money for water, sewer, and stormwater projects. So we're keeping it there because there's a few projects where they may have a funding gap right now, like the lift stations, maybe Southeast Stormwater. And we just want to have this funding available because it's allowed to be used for those types of projects.
okay.
And we may not. It may turn out that we don't need it for those, and we can reemploy it towards other initiatives.
Well, just buy more water. Just buy more water. The Nyberg Swanson and Women's Club. One. Um, smart city infrastructure, cybersecurity, oh, public safety. Hmm, okay. This new EOC building, is it going to be 1 story, 2 story? Is it going to?
We don't know. We know that we're doing away with that existing little building that's between the Nyberg Swanson and the Women's Club. So it's going to depend how many offices. It'd be great if we could do it in 1 story, but I think we might need two. It all depends when we get into the details of the spaces that we need. And excuse me, Mayor, just for a second, I just wanted to put something on the record. Um, One thing that I've noticed with the with manager, the CRA director, and with manager Harris, whenever we have reached out to them, currently I just reached out to the director because there's a lot of little properties that the CRA has that they can't do anything with it. And we're looking to expand parks, something I've discussed with you guys. So immediately he sent me a list, and we're working with Corinne and with Eleanor. So I don't think that they will have any problems working together with us. And I think wherever there's a strength on their end or our end, I think that'll be the key in regards to working together to getting things done. Because at the end of the day, it's our responsibility to take action based on your priorities. So I don't see that as a problem.
Thank you. And I just want to say with the ELC building, I know that like right now, if you go on public services, you barely have any reception on your phone. I just don't want to, and I know that with new construction, they're not really telling you all the hardware and infrastructure that you need in order those cellular towers or whatever they're called, so that you have um, access on your phone. If if there was a hurricane coming or anything, and we were all in that ELC, I just want the future building to be able so we can be able to have cell phone service inside of those facilities. And I know that's a more it's more expensive to add it after construction than to include it in the design. So I just want to put that on the record.
Absolutely, Mayor. The ELC building is going to be our bunker. We're going to operate on a city not just that's 35,000, but it's a future city of 50,000 people, and we've done that in other cities. And bringing in somebody like Daryl, who's here with us, in regards to the infrastructure, for communication is key, particularly when we're going to be bunkered up there, in category 4, category 5, God forbid. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you for knocking on Woody.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis wanted to talk about the Olson Middle School land purchase that we've all been dealing with
For
ages.
years. You guys have been probably doing it for 3 decades. I just want to know where we are in the process because we've lost those school board members and if we have been in touch or in contact, are we still confirmed to stay on the same pace and the same track that we were prior to all of these changes? So I just, people ask about that property because I live right next to it every day almost.
Oh, that's where you live.
Before director takes the mic, I just want to say that Commissioner Llewellyn, then Mayor Llewellyn, Mayor Tamara James, it's been nonstop with us. Like being a pest, but that's what we do. That's our responsibility. As soon as the new superintendent got in, Maxine sent her a nice card with some nice flowers. The mayor and I and Cassie and Eric met with them. We emphasized again, we want to partner. We told them, hey, we have money, we can partner. I mean, and the ball's still on their court. You want to give us an update?
Yes, basically, we are in the process of getting a facility use agreement. So we're in the process of getting a long-term lease now. I met with them last month, and as soon as I get the lease, it'll be going to Eve to look over with, maybe $1 a year for 60 years. We want to do at least 60 years. I don't think the school board do 60 anymore, but we want to do a 30-year with a 10-10 renewal. So we are in the process of doing that now. Now, with that being said, once we get that agreement, and it'll be shared usage, meaning that the school board will use it in the morning, the parks will have it in the afternoon. And we're looking to put a facility there so we can accommodate that area of Dania Beach that have no parks in that area. So we're looking to do that. So we're meeting with the county, as the manager said, the mayor, myself, and the manager and Cassie. We met with the new superintendent when she got on board, and she's all for it. Her team has been working with us diligently. So as soon as we get an agreement, I'll send it over to legal to get their blessings, and then we'll move from there as what we want to put there as far as a facility.
Thank you very much for the update.
Thank you. Traffic calming and pedestrian safety, no issues. And then City Hall campus improvements. We need the fountain now.
Oh,
I'm sick of
that
this
fountain
fountain.
keeps getting uglier by the second. We did a walkthrough today with Commissioner Davis that the parking in between City Hall and the garage is something that we want to expand the green space and make it livelier, and that fountain, we're all in agreement that it has to go. So doing a little bit of a master plan on that area is something that we're looking forward to, particularly that there's so much density, coming. The Gene Cook property sold. We see the project across the street, how quickly it's moving. So we're literally going to have, we spoke with Francisco Rojo yesterday, Corinne and I, and Candido. So we have the affordable housing soon putting a shovel in the ground there. So creating more parkland and more of an entertainment district and expanding on Dania after dark and doing more events with Parks and Rec. That's what's going to be happening there. So we're all on the same page.
So when the fountain coming?
After we put a shovel in the ground at C.W. Thomas.
Okay, when
And
is
Lucky
that?
Fish.
Okay. All
Yep.
right. Thank
work.
you. So that's is that everything? I think that's everything.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so
Thank you.
we have total consensus. Anyone have any issues? Last call? Nope. All right, great. Any asks that you all want to have? I have some. I can start. Okay. Okay, great. I want to see an expansion of our Dania Beach app. I want to see more than just Ask Dania Beach. I want to have a comprehensive app of kind of like where are the best places to eat, like where is our entertainment, where can they go for a hotel, like I want an app that's in Dania Beach. Therefore, everyone that also has the app downloaded, some type of way that we can send an alert through the app. If you have that app, for safety reasons, I don't know how to get that done or how much something like that would cost, but initially, a couple of commissions ago, we started wanting this Dania Beach app to be a comprehensive app, and it kind of turned into just Ask Dania Beach. But I want it to be like I don't know, a better app, like a comprehensive app. And I see, go ahead, Commissioner Ottman. I see your hand raised.
Well, you have a memory sharp as a tack, Mayor, so you'll probably remember the days of this conversation, which I think was probably 3 years ago. And maybe Candido, you'll remember too. And part of the argument and the pushback I got, so I wanted the same thing. I wanted a fully fleshed out Dania Beach app. Part of the pushback was, that, and again, so remember the context of it being 3 years ago, because perhaps it was a kind of valid argument that there didn't need, well, one, there was the argument that perhaps it could be tied in with the Chamber of Commerce, or it could be more of a Chamber of Commerce led thing. Well, that's gone by the wayside, we know. So, and then there was, and we did price it out. We looked at pricing out, we looked at having other people pay for it. So, the numbers to do it were, again, 3 years ago, high, but I still felt it was worth it. And so the other argument was, did you really need a Dania Beach app? Like, um, wasn't it like there's maybe a Hello Sunny app for greater Fort Lauderdale, and maybe some of our stuff would be included. And I think I sort of backed down from that because, and there's a website, and it's something like, if you go to Dania, a different thing, and it was through the Chamber of Commerce, and it had listed recommendations of the hotels, foods around town, places to go, da 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 da. And so the argument was, well, what do you need the app for? People can just go on their computer to, and I don't remember what the website was. So but now 3 years later, we can say this: almost nobody goes on their computer to look stuff up anymore if they come down here. Everything's through the phone. And number two, like most of you, I mean, I have an app for every stupid thing in the world. Like, I have an app, to tell me like where to get pizza. So certainly city specific apps, and I've seen them from the very, very small cities where it almost seemed comical, like places like Howie in the Hills, really, really small places that had them. So certainly I think that that we warrant it, especially with everything that we have going on. So I would be very supportive of that and seeing that come to fruition. And I think there's just a ton of benefits that could come with it. And I'd be curious to hear what everyone else feels about it.
Mayor, if I may, we can have Maxine is doing a really good job at researching stuff. Now that we've had that additional team member, Commissioner Odman, on board that can do some of the things, um, we're open. I mean, Candido's going to the mic. I mean, there's Yelp and Hotels.com, and there's so many apps about finding where to eat and what restaurants to go to, what hotels. But if there's a city that's doing it, and we can match that and bring it here, I mean, absolutely.
No, absolutely, Manager. And Commissioner Odman, I do remember the conversation 3 years ago where the chamber initially was taking the lead and reaching out to other cities. In Broward, the biggest city, Fort Lauderdale, we reached out to them and they said they don't, their app doesn't do that. They rely on the Greater Alliance and their chamber to promote the businesses. And some examples they gave me was when visitors come to town, they already have their apps on the phone, the Yelp, the Open Table, the restaurant.com. The last thing they want to do is download some new app for every city they go to try to figure out a restaurant that's kind of already on the apps that everyone is familiar with. If you travel and you want to know where the best restaurant is, you want to see the reviews from Yelp, from these national apps. If you want to
But I
stay at a
think that's
hotel,
changing, Candido, because I disagree with that. When I go somewhere now, like when I go to Texas, when I go to New Mexico, I download the app, and it's very, very common now. You download the app, and then when you leave, if you're not going back there anytime soon, you delete the app. Like the way iOS is, and that's what not most, many people have. It's not uncommon. It's different than it was 3 years ago. And I agreed with you 3 years ago, but I don't agree anymore. I think that it's so not a big deal that right before you're leaving, you pack, you think of where you want to go, and you look to see if there's an app. I think a lot of people who travel a lot do that and delete it afterward.
I also, and I see your hand. I also think that a lot of those times, like Yelp and TripAdvisor, they miss out on the small gems.
Yeah.
So this app is just not an app like for tourists, also an app for our residents.
Yeah.
Because we have businesses that come into business every day, all the time. And a lot of those other apps, you're only featured on that app if you're paying a price. So like that one website that Commissioner Ottman was talking about through the chamber, they only got featured or promoted if they paid a certain price. So we missed out. I go around different cities and I find these hole in the walls, these great places, these very unique, creative places that don't have the reach or the traffic to be able to have their SEO or whatever, bumped up so high that that's the first thing that is going to come. I can sit at home and say, pizza near me, and they'll show me something in Davie. They'll show me something in Hollywood. They won't show me all of the pizza places right here in Dania Beach. So it's not. It's also going to be in line with our branding and our business development and our business promotion and putting our businesses out there, because we want our businesses to survive and be patronized. And not that we have to in-house develop the app and everything else, but I do think that as we grow, we are we are gaining so many new residents here that are brand new to the city of Dania Beach. Why not have something, a feature for our residents that can say, you know what, download the Dania Beach app and we can put those in the different businesses so they can stay in line of what we're doing, upcoming programs that we have in our park and recreation. Where can I go at the hotel? Why would we search things when we already know, like our our, our hotel says the Hilton, I mean the Marriott in Fort Lauderdale in Dania Point, and so they're not really promoting Dania Beach like we can promote Dania Beach.
Maybe through this business incentive that we have through the American Rescue. I mean, we have $1 million in Mayor Commissioner Rodman. So if it can help our local business and those gems and those hole in the walls, we can tie it through the American Rescue Plan through this business incentive.
I don't mind.
So we could do the research, guys, and we can find what cities are doing it right. If by any chance you already know of a city nationally or internationally that you can recommend to us, we'll start the research, but we definitely know where we can fund it from.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Llewellyn.
I wanted to approach this from a different perspective since I am a business owner in the city and we are impacted by various apps. And I will tell you that the people that visit our business, that are staying in hotels in particular, are finding us through Google. They just look up Google. Google doesn't charge you. It's a whole. They just do it. And um, and they usually do the same thing when they travel to other places. So I definitely need to do the research and find out what the situation is, the costs that are associated with and all that. But if it's going to end up being a city app that's going to be that expansive, you're going to really have to promote it because people aren't going to know to look. I mean, a lot of times people come into the city from an airport or they're going to a cruise or something, and they don't even realize they're in Dania Beach. It's just a thing. So they hear Fort Lauderdale Hollywood Airport, so they're looking for Fort Lauderdale and Hollywood. And it just happens to be if they're nearby at someplace and they go on Google. They don't even look. They're not looking for the name of the city. So it that's it needs some research.
Okay.
So,
Do we have the consensus through the research to fund this through the ARPA monies that are already budgeted? All right. Yes, yes, yes. Great. Move on to my next thing. Wayfinding signs. I've been talking about this for a few years as well. I don't think this is in the CRA's budget. This was a CRA item about 3 years ago, and it was cut out of the budget because we didn't fund the CRA to the capacity to be able to include that because we did a lot of cuts at that time. Um, it's time. It's time. We need wayfinding signs citywide. People need to know where they're going, location, and that's just something I think that every city should have. And I'm tired of riding through other cities, seeing it, and then getting off on Griffin Road and not knowing where we are. If I'm a tourist, of course I know where I am, but I want to explore wayfinding signage. Commissioner Davis, you about this or something different?
Concur with that, but yes, I'm moving on to something different.
Okay.
When
Okay, yeah, so wayfinding signs. I knew that just for the CRA area. I'm not sure of what that request was a few years ago, but I know that wayfinding signage can be expensive.
Yeah, we
Um,
even tried Mayor through the CDBG to get a grant working together, but with CDBG, or with any
it wasn't
grant,
a
it
viable
depends
project.
what they're funding that year. So they weren't funding that, but we can start with an initial phase that really concentrates on the core of our city, Federal, Dania Beach Boulevard, City Hall, pointing to the beach. We were discussing that earlier today with Commissioner Davis. So we can start with a phase one as we build our parks and our infrastructure and everything that we're doing. And we can also work with Dania Point. We can also see through this American Rescue, that million that we have for businesses, maybe that can help too, because people can go directly to our business corridor, Federal Highway, Dana Beach Boulevard. So we can
Okay,
start with a phase one on that.
okay, do we want to put a certain amount of money in the budget for it?
You guys want to set aside like $200,000 or $100,000 for that?
Frank, how much we have?
You mean for the ARPA?
He's scratching you, all right?
The ARPA money, you have $1 million in for this. So however much of that you want to allocate.
Okay, what do y'all say, $100,000?
100,000.
Yes. Okay, $100,000. All right. And the last thing that I would say is a budget adjustment for the salaries of the elected officials. I know this isn't a sexy topic, and we've dealt with it, but I know the amount of time and effort that is put in by this board. I can't speak for all boards, but this board, I think that we are well overdue for a budget adjustment for our salaries to be able to really sustain or to do the job effectively for how we are doing our jobs. So that is, I don't know what anyone feels about that. Commissioner Ottman?
I'll put my 2 cents in because I think it puts commissioners in a really difficult place to talk about this. I think one time we increased the travel budget and someone wrote an article about how like we increased it 5,000,000% or something, and it was really intense. So as an outgoing commissioner who wouldn't benefit from it, I'll say this, that there's a very good argument to be made on both sides. And there's a very good argument to be made for why the situation isn't the same for commissioners as it was, and for paying them enough to be able to come and do this job than there was 20 years ago. And I think if you're looking to have a well represented representative local government where you're going to have teachers, lawyers, small business people, single mothers or single parents, it needs to be that it's sustainable for them to come. If you want people who are younger, historically, you were getting older or retired people coming onto the commission. So if you want to see age representative as well, you're going to have to take into account things like childcare, or at least you're going to have to admit that that's something that exists, and factor that in. So I am supportive of it. I think that the evolving Dania Beach Commission over the next 10 years, let's say, is going to require that if you want a diverse and truly representative commission of Dania Beach. That's my thoughts on it.
Thank you. Commissioner Llewellyn?
My comments on it are the same as they've always been. This is supposed to be public service. It is not supposed to be something where you are being paid a full-time salary, despite the fact that it may be a full-time job at times. There are a lot of benefits that we all get. We get health insurance benefits if you want them. We get pension if you want it as well. And other cities are not paying high salaries either. So I don't think that it is an appropriate thing to want to increase our salaries to the point where you're competing with large cities like Fort Lauderdale or someplace like that. And it's not even about appearances. It's just a matter of, that's just how I feel. I mean, that's if you work in the public sector, the jobs are not paid as well as if you're in the private sector generally. That's usually the way that it works. So I just, I don't agree with it. And as I've said it before, I don't agree with it and I would not vote in favor of it.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis?
Yes, thank you. I think this topic was brought to me, I think maybe 6 months after I had come onto the commission. I was like, I've been here 6 months. There's no way that I would ever consider, increasing what I've done, increasing my salary. I would increase anybody's salary after having been on the job 6 months. But almost now 2 years into the position and seeing what it requires, and if you're really engaged and if you're really impassioned and you really do the job to 100%, you know and looking at where we are with inflation. 2 years ago we were not in the same place. You look at I think we looked at the CRA plan, and a one bedroom is 1950. That was not the or that was not the case 2 years ago, or 2 years ago. We are in a different time. We are in a different climate since COVID. Prices have increased, salaries have not. That's why a lot of people feel like they're being pushed out of Dania Beach right now. So I'm not here to say we should have an exorbitant, huge increase, but I do think it needs to be, at whatever increase. I would be in support of a certain percentage that is reasonable to live and work in this city.
Thank you. I think that price was 2,400 for a one bedroom. That was reported last CRA meeting. Vice Mayor, you have anything to add?
Tough thing to talk about, but I'm good with the majority of whatever the commission wants. Um, I tried to be neutral here as much as I can. I understand both sides of the coin. Commissioner Davis just made a good point. Commissioner Llewellyn, I understand hers, and I understand Commissioner Odman as well. So there's a lot of good points and bad points. And of course, we don't want to always take the taxpayers and pay us something else. But in general, fortunately, I don't care either way. But the thing is that if you're talking about time and being paid, and the points about bringing in other people that can maybe spare the time or do the babysitting services for someone that might want to be a commissioner, or to be able to diversify out to give other opportunities, because people need to do other things as a secondary job, or have an opportunity to be elected, to even get their health care and stuff. I think it opens the door up for a lot of opportunities that are out there. I mean, like I said, I don't care either way, but whatever the majority of the commission wants, I'll go with it one way or the other. So
Thank you. And I'm not trying to be like the city of Fort Lauderdale. Their mayor makes almost $80,000. It's not something that I'm asking to do. Um, I did have this. I've been having this conversation for a while now with the city manager and Frank and everyone else. And it's the last time that this was brought up. It wasn't brought up by me, and I feel like it was turned into a dog and pony show, and that's not what we're here to do. We can disagree on things, but I think we should remain respectful and definitely not bring negative press to our own city. And so, as a city manager, what do you think is what are your thoughts on what you think is sufficient of what our budget can handle in order to give us a fair increase?
I mean, I'll turn that over to Frank. The 8.5% kicks in for
Mhm,
everybody,
mhm.
including all of you in October, with a 7% coming in next October, 21.5% for the next 3 years.
Mhm.
So whatever you all think it's appropriate. Um, so I'll turn it over to Frankie. You'll have your 25,000 individual, and you have your 200,000 separate from that in your mayor contingency. So
How much is in our contingency as our commission?
It's a,
Oh, not each, not
it's a,
individual.
it's a
Collective.
total of 325,000. So when you take out the 25,000 individual, there's 200,000 left.
200,000.
Yeah.
Right.
For the commission as
Okay.
a whole.
Okay. I mean, I would support a $5,000 increase to our salaries. I'm going to see if I have consensus from people who I think may have consensus from. Uh,
So 5,000, that would be 25. You would want us to adjust the contingency to 175?
However you have, that's
Just
Frank's
to keep,
job.
just to keep the budget
No,
balanced.
that's Frank's, whatever y'all
Yeah.
feel of how that happens, I don't, you tell us.
I think we can absorb that within the budget. I think there's been a few things that have changed that we can make that work.
Yes. Um, let's see. Commissioner Davis, I'm just gonna call the roll, to be fair. Commissioner Davis, is that something you could support?
Yes.
All right, Commissioner Llewellyn,
No.
Commissioner Ottman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor,
I guess so, yes.
and yes for me. All right.
And we won't have to touch your contingency, so that
Correct.
stays the same.
The last thing is, told you I had a lot of ass, I'm sorry. The last thing is to look into that park position, and I don't know the financial impact on that, not the parks position, it was a public services position for that park maintenance person. I don't know if we need 1.5 people or one person or whatever, but I do think we need more, especially with our parks expanding in the growth that is going to take. And I know that, our 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 guys have done a great job at the parks. I mean, I don't even go out to Dania Cove often, but I know some people that live around there, and they rant and rave on how great the park looked, and how we're doing a great job at all of our parks. And so as we grow, I think our staff, especially in those things that we have a lot of weekend activities that happen. And what I would like to see from that department as well is when we are having those activities at whatever facility, that we have those park people there pick sticking. And I know sometimes we do, and I even see our parks people pick sticking and cleaning our facilities as well. But I know as we expand and grow and we are expanding our programs, we're gonna need help in that area. So I would like to have some type of a cost analysis on what impact that will be as well.
On a full-time parks maintenance person that can support public service in regards to cleaning and maintaining the parks.
Yes, at least one.
Okay.
At least one, and maybe not starting now, but I know
Maybe in
after we break ground, so maybe in January, the same time as the athletics coordinator, they can probably come on together, because I think they'll need to both learn and probably be trained, because they'll probably be working hand in hand with the activities that are going on with those parks.
Bringing that position, Frank, I believe, and starting it in the second quarter, we would probably be looking at somewhere around 50,000 with benefits, give or
Okay.
take. So,
Okay. Is that something that anyone has an issue with? No issue, no issue, no issue?
we're good with that.
All right, can we add that then? Thank you. All right, Commissioner Davis, I'm finished.
Ooh, girl. All right. Hopefully I won't be as long. I won't. Hopefully, maybe. We'll see. All right. The first one I'm going to bring up is advertisement in our city. Probably last November, I traveled. I was on a plane for I was 8 different planes within 2 months, and I go to Fort Lauderdale airport, and it just it astounded me that everybody from Broward County, from NSU, from all these different companies know how important it is to advertise at the airport. And as such, I made a contact with Clear Channel to do a tour of all 4 terminals of the airport and look at different opportunities for advertising inside the airport, outside the airport. I took probably 100 pictures, and we put it into a PowerPoint that's coming up. But I just think that it is such an exciting time in our city, and we are growing and doing so many great things that we need to capture it in a way that really speaks to our city, to our brand, to our vibrancy, to our growth. And the airport was just one area for that. And I really think we're doing a missed opportunity. I did speak, I did hear, I know the vice mayor or somebody, we had an email about the announcements. I had Maxine to look into the announcements a few months ago to see how Michael Udine was going on and welcoming people to the city of Dania Beach. So months ago, I started this research about advertising in Dania Beach, advertising at the airport, and really putting our name to get it out there to be in alignment with our strategic plan as far as being a destination location. And I believe we were told that we could not do the announcement, but that I will be bringing forward a presentation with From Clear Channel to show the different options that we have at the airport. In addition, I met with one of the account executives at Funware, and it's another digital media resource that really gets our message and gets our branding out. And they can do it as far as we want it. We can be national, it could be in Broward County, wherever we decided to advertise. But I think having an advertising budget would greatly benefit our community. It would greatly benefit our city, our residents, and really move us forward as far as uh, executing our strategic plan. So I wanted to see if we would be interested in using a percentage of our commission budget to do that, and getting your thoughts on advertising more of our city.
Okay, I guess I could start. That goes in line with something else that I had spoken with the city manager and Frank about in our budget discussions. We need a communications department eventually, and I wouldn't even mind starting by bringing one person in because that would be their expertise, in different forms of communication and making sure that we are marketing our city in the best ways. And they have different access and to different magazines and digital and we've had our stuff on buses before, and so I definitely think so. I don't know about a percentage. We might have money in the budget. Ask Frank about that because I don't even know how much money you are asking for. I mean, I would ask for a position, some type of a communications position. I know we can't afford to do an entire department at one time, but you build them in step by step. I know Katia can't do it all, but she can't do it. She can't be in every place at one time. She's everywhere trying to use a drone and take pictures and BRPIO, and it's a lot of responsibility, and she's doing a great job. But I think we need to expand on our brand and who we are with all of these different residents that are future residents that are coming here, with all of these units that are coming here. I think that with that expansion, it warrants some type of a communications department down the line, but something definitely right now that we can do. So I'm not sure of what would be easier to hire somebody and give them a budget, because when we do that, someone's going to have to take the role and run with what you're saying as well. So those are my
What
thoughts.
I recommend, I think for this year, rather than a position, I think that's something that we could look at. I think that we should set aside maybe, 60,000 dollars from the 200 and do some sort of RFP based on our needs and what you all have envisioned and see what firms are out there so we can hit the ground running with a multitude of areas that we can focus on.
So you're saying to take the $60,000 out of our
200,000.
contingency budget?
Yeah, out of that
But that doesn't, but even after that, that's still not, that isn't the budget for them to do what they need to do. That's just for us to ask who can do it. We're gonna pay, right?
Well,
They
it
would hire
it
somebody.
depends. Like for example, a couple of years ago, you all invested in the buses, and there was a lot. Remember, Candido and I were talking about. We thought that this was actually one of the best programs that we've seen from the CRA, and it was the buses, and it was when we had just first, well, right,
Right.
the
No, yeah,
billboards.
that was the rebranding initiative. What I'm asking is with the $60,000, what do we get? Just the RFP?
I don't know. It may be we may have to come back to you and say, hey, instead of 60, we need to amend that to 75. So
So how much does an RFP cost? How about that?
we
Here's
would have
Frank.
to put what we would do first is put the scope, and we will put the scope in a position, and we will put the scope for a firm, and then we can actually go the same path at the same time. It could be a full-time position or it can be a firm. Our first goal would be let's do the scope based on what you all want to see.
Okay, but my question is how much does it how much money does it take typically? And I know you might be a couple dollars off here or there, but what is the budgetary impact on doing an RFP? That's the question. Because if it's $5,000, then there's nothing to talk about. But if it's $50,000, then we have to talk about adding more money to that, because once we get that firm, they're going to need a budget.
I mean, the RFP we could do in-house. We might need a consultant for a very small fee to help us put together and work with Sasha, our procurement person.
Correct,
I mean,
Andrew. There's no cost to the RFP, or minimal cost to the RFP.
Okay, that's what I was
It
asking.
depends on what the scope is, what it is we want to do, billboards, airport advertising, buses. We could come up with a scope that's included in the RFP. The bidders would tell us how much for their firm.
right.
40,000, 50,000, 60,000, 70,000, according to our scope. But the RFP itself, we do that all the time in-house.
Okay, I guess I'm talking about how much the firm is going to cost along with that, because that still is not going to be the budget for what she's saying.
We
What I
won't
can tell
know
you is
until
that
we
the-
put it out, right?
No,
We
the
get the bids
firm,
back.
I will say that the firm that I've spoken to, they will work with your budget. If you say I only want to spend
Correct.
$10,000, that's what they're gonna, stick to. So, we get to set we would get to set the budget with the firms that I've spoken with.
Right, yes.
But, they're only gonna do what we say we want done and how much we want to spend.
Correct. The point of me asking how much this firm, I said it the wrong way, but how much the firm is going to cost, because it might be cheaper to hire a person than pay a firm. That's my point of everything. If a firm costs $50,000, $60,000, it may or may not be cheaper to get someone on the less expensive end that can do some of this stuff and give them a budget, because the firm is going to cost money. And if you're talking about billboards, one billboard is going to cost you about $8,000 to $10,000. Like they're
Mayor,
not cheap.
We're actually talking about two different things. One thing is let's call it a communication officer
Mhm.
that will specialize in city communications, but we would still need marketing dollars.
Right.
So we're really talking two
understand that.
separate road paths to what we're trying to achieve.
Right. And my point is, it's going to be more than $60,000. We
With a-
need to, if
with
we're
a
going to set
60
aside money.
The
We need-
60 could start, I'm sorry to interrupt, the 60 could start the marketing campaign. And that's what I think that Commissioner Davis is referring to.
But we don't know how much the firm is going to cost. So just like the city manager said, you still have to come back, because the cost to do the RFP is minimal, but then the firm that you choose is going to cost money. They're
Right, we're
not
just
coming.
throwing that, Mayor, we're just throwing that 60,000, but it may be 75,000, it may be
That's what I'm saying.
8,000.
Then it would
And
come
we-
back to us.
Right, so
And
we
remember
will come back to us.
The RFP, part of it, of the discussion is we tell the firms what our budget is. That's not they can't come back at $1 million. We tell them we have $70,000 this year for this scope, and that's how we get bids.
And how do you
within the budget.
maximize, right? And how do you get us there? And it may not be an RFP, it may be an RFQ, which is a request for qualifications. So according to what you all want to see, what billboards, buses, I mean banners. We could do
Banners.
stuff in-house. Banners. Hey, Dana Beach, we want to mark our territory. Now we also reached out to Commissioner Bean Firm and Commissioner Ryan. Commissioner, and I remember that email that you're talking about, because we had that conversation, and Commissioner Bean first said to us, I am going to reach out to Broward County and make sure that they do mention, Dana Beach. So we can follow up on that. But you give us a list on all you all would like to see, and then we could take the first steps in putting that RFQ or RFP together. And then we can come back to you and say, hey, based on the priorities of what you guys want, it's going to cost 60, 70, or $80,000. And we can take it from there.
Okay.
My thing is, can we put it in the budget from now? Okay, sorry.
Right. Frank, how much do we have left in our contingency, our commission contingency as of to date? Not individual, take all that out.
Haven't used any of it this year, of
Okay.
the 200,000.
So what I was going to ask is that we earmark, I would say, because we can always come back if we feel like we need it, but we rarely use that money. $100,000 to secure and to start, because I don't want to have to come back
Right.
and have this whole discussion, because a lot of times we handicap ourselves
Yep.
having to come back for
coming
things that
back.
we already support. So I would want to earmark our commission contingency, $100,000 of that to make sure that we are marketing and branding. And if we can add those flagpoles, I mean, we wanted to kind of do something seasonal every season, kind of add something different that kind of hasn't happened yet. Um, that was another program that was supposed to happen. But if we can add that to those flagpoles and different types of communication there too, I think that when you're coming from the Fort Lauderdale Airport in Dania Beach, you have no choice but to see us coming in. I mean, we have the beautiful entryway signage, but other things amongst the city to really enhance who we are. So, is there anyone? I know this is your item, Commissioner Davis, but is there something that you would want? Are
Absolutely.
you okay with that?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the whole, I wanted, the manager to take, her conversation with the county commissioners further. I wanted to look at the different kinds of advertising opportunities we have and then put a significant amount away so we're not doing the back and forth. So,
Yeah, and Mayor, and Commissioner, when you're gonna put banners, if you put one in every fifth pole, but if we really have a game plan based on this $100,000, and people would know when they're in our city from State Road 7 all the way to Federal on Griffin and on the US 1 corridor and our major corridors, people will know that they're here. So we will encompass all that and see how much we can get for that $100,000.
excellent.
Okay. Yes.
Just one thing, we've had a couple of digital signs you approved last year, if you recall, and we did reserve space on those, and one gentleman has started paying the city for that use. So you may want to look into that as well as for advertising purposes for the city.
Where's the digital signs? Where are
There's
they?
one off of I-95, and there's one by
Oh,
the
okay.
industrial area.
You're
that-
talking about the billboards.
There, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Yeah. And then if we can also tap into Dania Point and to see at if we can have some type of a agreement to cross advertise at no
Yeah.
fee,
Yeah.
we can get some things in their marketing and stuff as well. So, Commissioner Llewellyn, you have anything? No. So that's three. Commissioner Ottman, nothing. No. Okay. Marco's gone. Who cares? Move on.
Marco's gone.
He went to the restroom. He's going to say anyway. Yeah, whatever you all want to do. Vice Mayor. Okay.
He's good.
Commissioner Davis, go ahead.
Okay, so that was a big one there. Um, let's see. The other one is a little bit touchy, uh, because there's just been a few places and a few people who have spoken to me. It's not an exorbitant amount, but ever since we were not able to get the accountability documentation from the Dania Beach Chamber, our relationship has kind of been rocky or severed because we're not able to hold them financially accountable. We don't have any control over that. And so there has been an underground push um, to create our own identity where we do have that accountability, where we are able to say, hey, this is Dania Beach, whatever you want to call it, whether it's so many options right now. I'm not going to get into naming options, but to have a um, business entity or organization that is accountable to the city for specifically develop like a chamber of commerce, similar, if not a chamber of commerce. And I've had people who are interested. I think if we put an RFP out for that, people would be interested in it. The thing that always irritates me more than anything I always say is just that, everybody takes us over. Fort Lauderdale takes us over. Hollywood takes us over. And I just think that, the current chamber partners with a lot of different other chambers. And I think that we are in a position and we are ready to have something that would be specifically focused on Dania Beach businesses and growing the businesses that we have here. So I wanted to see if we could put, or what your thoughts would be on putting um, I don't have a specific amount in mind, but it's to see if there would be interest from my colleagues to have our own entity that would be accountable to the city.
I'll let Commissioner Llewellyn go first.
Yeah, I've been having the same thoughts, and especially because I'm dealing with the Hollywood Chamber a lot, and the Hollywood Chamber does a great job for businesses, and they do a lot for tourism in general. And I actually did, I spoke briefly with our city attorney about legalities of this and what needs to be done. If there is much we can do, and the only thing would be to have it under a different name. I mean, I had to have Dana Beach, and obviously we'd have to have a different name, right?
Yeah, if I can through the mayor, the Chamber of Commerce is incorporated, so we couldn't use the exact same name, but you could do a Chamber of Commerce of Greater Dania Beach or whatever it is, have a different name. But I'm not sure that that's something you all would create because you need the businesses to join and to support it. Um, Again, if whoever joins the existing one and they can get control and accountability, then you have something there. But otherwise, it's just a competing organization. You may want to put some funding to say, look, if the Chamber of Commerce comes forward and does X, Y, and Z, we'll give you a grant and with the accountability. And maybe that's an incentive to the chamber to step up. But for us to do an RFQ, there's nothing for us to RFQ. It really, the businesses have to be interested and want to come together and pay dues and advertise and support Dania.
Through the mayor, if I may, and I've been discussing this with you, Commissioner Llewellyn, and even with staff. And there's two routes to take. The chamber route, which is already in place and it's kind of like touchy and naming rights, but there there could be under community development a branch that focuses on a business development director or community development director, that would be a position that the focus would be citywide, right? Also working with the CRA, but citywide to develop business, to recruit business, and to promote business, have these special events with business. So this could be a route. So whatever you all decide to do, but yeah, the Dana Beach Chamber of Commerce has not been working for us, as you know. And when we met with them, and Frank, wanted the accountability based on your direction and the conversation, they preferred not to have funded position than to kind of show us their books.
Okay, I'm gonna speak a little bit on this. I see you. Go ahead, Commissioner Ahmed. I just wanted to add something, but you go first.
So I've been hearing about this for a while too, and one of the groups I heard about it from was from developers wanting it. And anytime developers want something, I'm always like, something's weird about that. And I don't know, like what, and then so I started really looking into like chambers of commerce and their historical like reason for even existing. And it really is, or it was meant to be created by like the businesses. So, and then this was maybe this was during COVID. And some businesses said, I don't want to pay some dues for y'all to come out and cut a ribbon. They weren't that enthusiastic. Now, were they not enthusiastic because they didn't, they didn't like our previous or the previous services of the chamber? And could the chamber do more? Or a new chamber, a business council, whatever the different buzzwords are now. I think Chamber of Commerce is kind of outdated. I don't know, but I don't know if I like the idea of the commission getting, creating the whole thing. And I don't even know that, from what Eve said, I don't even know that that's on the up and up. So I would be interested in and I don't know what this would look like, of having a meeting of not like Dania Point, like actual small business owners, like, Commissioner Llewellyn's the maybe someone not, and not just the big hotels. It's all Antonio, all different little businesses of different sizes. I want some small businesses there that have been around forever, some medium-sized businesses, some new businesses, and then maybe people from the bigger ones. A really good representation, and I want to hear what they think. Is it still of value? I don't know, but why go through all the trouble if they all said it's not of value? So that's what I'd want to hear from before we got overly involved, either mentally or financially.
Thank you. And my comments are, I think that our current chamber has connections with a lot of the other businesses, and they're already established. I think if we wanted to add that accountability part or the things that, um, I heard from this commission that they did not see, I would want to offer to maybe give, so if we decided to give the current chamber a budget, a certain amount of money, and say, with this budget, these are your deliverables and this is what we want to see in the city. I think that's an opportunity for them to be able to have to show us what they do with our portions of the money. I think what got a little in the gray area was that it wasn't fully funded by the city. And so I don't know, I can't speak for them. I know they just weren't comfortable with divulging all of their finances, because all of it, they weren't 100% supported by the city. So I think if we could add those deliverables attached to that money to a chamber that's already established, I think it'll take out a lot of the concerns that I would have from creating it from scratch. You know what I mean? And trying to find a different type of organization that's going to do it, and the longevity that they may have in the creating it and not having that experience and behind it, because anything that you start from zero, you're going to have to wait a year or maybe two to really see, that trend of how that business is really performing, unless it's just like an overnight sensation. So that is one idea that we could possibly do. Um, but it's just difficult for me from doing it from scratch. That's my opinion. Commissioner Llewellyn?
Yeah, just a couple of things, just to answer Commissioner Odman's question as to whether or not chambers are a benefit. If they are useful, they are. They're very helpful to businesses, especially small businesses. Um, we did previously with this chamber, they had deliverables, they had things that they were supposed to be doing for us, and they failed to do them. That was one of the reasons why we said we wouldn't, we asked them to be accountable, and they wouldn't be. So I don't know that going back to them and having and giving them more money again, when in all honesty, our chamber, we gave them a lot of money compared to other chambers. Other chambers don't even get, I mean, it's a lot less. Like Hollywood's chamber does not get paid much at all from the city. It's funded by the businesses that are paying the dues every year, and their dues are less than what ours are in Dania Beach. And they do a lot more. So it's just, it has more to do with, I think, the way that it was set up. Um, I know COVID impacted a number of people that were involved with the chamber directly, but it did impact people in other cities as well, and they still managed to get their jobs done. So that was the bigger issue. So and there might be contacts, but I mean, I know myself because at the time when COVID hit and I was mayor, I was having conversations with the chamber about things that they could do and making suggestions, and nothing was ever done with them. Nothing ever happened. So it's I don't think that going back and trying to do it again is going to make a difference. I think either doing something through the city, like the manager suggested, or maybe having a meeting with a bunch of businesses. I'd be happy to, attend something like that. It wouldn't be me. I'd send somebody else, but and have businesses create something that would, help to create another organization that might be able to do something more. Um, I don't have a problem with that. I don't think that going back and handing them more money again just to do the same thing, when I still haven't really seen a whole lot that they've been doing other than doing joint events with other chambers. or tagging along with other chambers. So, I mean, we were even, my business was a member of the Dania Beach Chamber at one point, and other than making a phone call and saying, you know, you can continue to use the benefits, never stopped in, never did anything. So, I mean, that's just, my own experience. And I don't see the point in going back and trying to do something again that clearly didn't do so well in the first place.
Thank you. I think we need to take into consideration the inception of the chamber and the foundation that they initially had. And so, with the previous city manager, the chamber was never asked to submit these detailed reports. They were never asked to do certain things because I had a conversation with the previous city manager, and it was stated that we're going to allocate this amount of money, and you guys run your chamber how you want to run your chamber. Now, whether that was appropriate or not, is not for me to argue. I'm just telling you that's how it was ran then. And so to have different leadership amongst all of us to come in and say something different, and then we're talking about a chamber, who I know, Randy, if we're going to speak about it, she was terrified of going out of the house. And, and as the president or the head of that chamber, that impacted a lot of the things. I mean, COVID killed a lot of people. We did not know. We did not have a grasp on it. The CDC did not have a grasp on it. So I think that we need to be fair when we speak about, expecting the chamber to just get out and do all of these things because other people were doing them when a lot of times like it was very scary for different individuals who had pre-existing conditions. And so that was a lot of the reasoning why, Randy told me that she was not comfortable going out and doing all these other events during COVID. Now, again, before COVID, and after I finish speaking, I'll just give it back to Commissioner Davis. She could do what she wants to do with it, but we didn't give her the groundwork and the foundation from the beginning. We kind of came in the middle of something and kind of said, okay, change how you're doing it. We have a new finance director, we have a new commission, we have a new city manager, and this is how we want to do things. Then a lot of people are reluctant to that change, and a lot of things have changed in the years that we've had those conversations with her. And I think that we used to have in the atrium um, business meetings with the CRA, I believe it was, but we used to have these business ambassador type meetings right here in our atrium. So I'm in favor of going out and talking to the businesses or gathering the businesses, whoever's going to do that, and and see what they want. But I'm also in favor of having an additional conversation because 2 years is a long time for a lot of things in business to have happened, and we never know what the mindset is. The mindset is the same, then it's the same, and we know what to deal with. But if we aren't even willing to try, I I kind of don't agree with that, given the circumstances of this is not how it was set up, and it kind of felt like an ambush because that's not how they always did their business. And if it's something that they have to be accustomed to, we can go to them with that. But I do think that they're already established, and we have an opportunity to partner with people who want to partner with us, who may or may not want to partner with us. Commissioner Davis?
Well, all right. Um, Thank you all for your comments. I really appreciate the different perspectives that we've been able to get from everybody. Yes, it would be ideal if we could use our existing chamber because it's already established. It's already, and I've had a great working relationship with Randy for over 10 years. um, you know, it may be worth the conversation, but to Commissioner Llewellyn's point, we have in the past appointed Vice Mayor Salavino to have these conversations, to have these things. If if Mayor, if you want to be the point person to see what happens, you never know what can happen with the conversation. There's nothing wrong with having a conversation. Um, is my confidence all the way up? No, because we've tried, I know we've had letters, we've had a lot of different times that we've gone back and tried to say, hey, 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 if you get the same answer again, then, draw the line in the sand and let's keep it moving. To the manager's point, I do think that we can benefit from at least researching and looking into, you know, another avenue that would be viable for specifically the city of Dania Beach. So I would like to request that the manager look into that, and we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can have a conversation, we can do the research, and then we can come back and see what the best options are available. So that's how I would like to end that.
Anyone have any issues with that? Nope, nope, nope. All right, we'll move forward with that. Is Vice Mayor, is that it for you, Commissioner Davis?
I have about 10 more items if you could just hold on. The next thing is the beach. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my God. I was like, they're like, we ready to go home out there.
That was my
We-
Fernando
we
joke.
tired of y'all talking. That was it for you, Commissioner Davis?
I'm done. I'm
Oh,
done.
you're
I'm
done. Okay, okay. I'm gonna ask, anyone else have any other budget additions, subtractions, comments, whatever? Commissioner Llewellyn?
Just one thing, and I probably should have said it before when we were talking about the staffing and whatnot. I know that we're having the additional public safety that's being added, especially the 8 officers over the next year. And I have had this discussion that I do want to make sure that we are making sure we have 1 or 2 that go to the homeless outreach, because that population is growing day by day, and is likely to continue to grow. And the homeless outreach does a great job. They really do a great job in trying to help people. But they're only there 5 days a week during the day. So we need people that are there at night. We need people there that are on the weekends. That's all. But I have had this conversation already, and I think we're good with that. So
Is it included? Is one of the officers a homeless outreach person? Is that the question you're asking, Commissioner Llewellyn?
I think it's 1 or 2. Is
Okay,
what the
I
plan
would like to
was.
know.
I just-
I don't remember from my meeting.
Come on up, Captain. I know from my conversations with Captain, we definitely wanted to have an additional homeless representative. We were also looking at detectives and more senior personnel. So you want to just give us the
Yes,
update?
ma'am. Good afternoon, everybody. Um, at least one homeless outreach deputy, but we're training our current deputies. We're in the process of interviewing and finding out which ones have the passion to help and enforce any laws being broken, quality of life issues. Uh, so that's taking place right now. We're in dire need of another detective, an additional detective for Dania Point, for all the fraud cases and grand theft cases we're getting over there. I currently have one detective just for Dania Point, and we need one just for fraud now. And then I'm also going to supplement the crime suppression team with another detective. I was just telling Deputy Cortez back there exactly what we plan on doing, and then the rest will be for road patrol
Okay.
to handle the abundance of calls we're getting and the additional calls we're getting throughout the city.
And it's just about the staggered shifts too, because it has to be staggered shifts, because it's just
Yeah,
homelessness is
absolutely.
on.
I've been coming in a lot on the weekends and seeing the difference. But we have been busy. I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh, I
really
know.
busy.
That's why you're getting 8 officers.
And I can't thank you enough for your support. I've been telling all the troops, and they're just thrilled.
I just want to say through the mayor, I have spent the whole weekend, nights, Saturday, Sunday, communicating with Captain Marks about the concerns that all of you have. Safety is our priority, and we met out at the beach today, and to see what Captain Marks does in addition to his work, and Commissioner Davis witnessed this. We have a Beam team member that is fantastic. I believe his name is that Darius?
Yes.
So a young man, Darius, who's outstanding, and he's great at what he does, but he has become really good friends with Captain Marks, and he told Captain Marks that he always wanted to be a firefighter. So we're working with him. We're gonna lose him in the Beam team, but that relationship and to see them together out there in the beach, and also the work that he's been doing, working with the housing authority and HUD. And today he was able to communicate to me that that house that was problematic, where the shots, where the drive-by
I was going to
occurred.
ask for an update because I asked him to give an update because I know how I'm on you.
Oh,
I'm very,
it's
I'm
good.
very demanding when it comes down to it. So I also wanted to be fair while you were up here
Yeah.
to give us an update on that situation.
Okay, yes, we have the camera system, the 360 camera up. We can see that whole corridor there, that whole block,
When you
if
say
you will.
360, are you talking about the eye in the sky?
It's not really an eye in the sky. It's like a surveillance
Oh, it's the one
tower.
with the black ones?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Can we put in the budget to fix the eye in the sky
We
to
are
get the
working,
cameras to work?
we are working to add more LPRs. I mean, when I got here, we had like one broken down LPR, and now we have what, like half a dozen.
Oh,
So
yeah.
the eye in the sky, we're going to fix, but one of the initiatives that we're going to be working on, and it's something that I've been discussing.
Yes, I briefly spoke about it at the last commission meeting. Uh, we have LETF funds from the county, not city
Yeah.
LETF funds. So I already did the memo. I'm submitting it through our chain of command, and they release the funds and buy the equipment, and we'll have even more.
I mean, it's like every weekend I'm talking with the, Mayor James and Commissioner Llewellyn about whether it's crime or whether it's homeless nonstop. And I am calling Captain Marks on the weekend. This Sunday I called him and it was at 8:45. I know that's all right, the time you get into your pajamas
Oh,
and
I'll
everything,
sleep.
because he wakes up really early.
I
Well,
woke him up the other day.
Yeah, no, I know, and you guys, but it's like we jump on it and there's a game plan and there's so much that I want to say, but so much that I have to hold back because there's certain details. And even communicating with Mayor Bobby Grace, they called me over the weekend. But these initiatives that we're doing in this investment, there's a return, and we want that return to even be better than what it is today.
Right, and it's still an active investigation, so I'm not going to speak on the actual incidents
Yeah.
themselves. But today I did confirm that the resident there was a Section 8 participant. We were able to find out that the agreement had been rescinded, and the resident moved out yesterday. There's still some, or late Sunday, I think it was. There's still some of their belongings there. There were people living at that residence that should not have been living there. In reference to their rules, there were several people living there, and the lock should be changed by the owner tomorrow. I have the owner's name, the investment company's name. They're right here in Hollywood, and we're gonna go pay them a little visit.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate that. I heard they came from Coffer Ranches, but then when I spoke to the mayor of West Park, whose 96-year-old aunt stays right next door to them, so imagine the terror. She had told me we kicked them out of West Park. Does she have a lot of teenage sons? And they may have gone from their city to our city, and they can have them back. I don't
And
know.
that was the intel we got on the last one at CW Thomas's. That's the same
It's the
area they
same
were
people.
from. But Deputy Cortez was just telling me that after the second one, all the neighbors came outside and said that's the only problem we have on this block.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Okay. Well, thank you for that.
No problem. Anything?
I think that's it. I think that's it. Any more questions regarding the budget? No, no, no. Okay, Commissioner Davis, y'all blame her.
Y'all blame her.
I lied. No, I just because I spoke about it in my one-on-one meetings, but I just want to put it out there for the record. I'm really pushing this Dania Beach pristine, and with the beach rakers that we have, I still don't feel like that current contract is sufficient for what they do. And I've done a tour in Fort Lauderdale, and they have a whole process where they take the seaweed off the beach, they, dry it out, they recycle the plastic, and they repurpose the seaweed for landscaping projects. I just want to be able to get the seaweed off the beach and not bury it. So I spoke to the manager, she spoken or did some research in a different area, but I just want to put it out there for the record, see where we are. Are we still locked into another a contract with the same company, and what are our options for moving forward with something more effective?
I'm gonna meet with Director Brown and see if it has to be funded at a higher rate, then, and if that's the priority, then we'll move monies around. I mean, everything cannot be a priority, but certain things definitely are a priority. So if it costs us more to get them to remove it, let's get an additional quote, Director Brown.
So I'll meet with the manager. We did an exercise as far as moving it off the beach. And when you look at other cities that's moving it off the beach, you're talking about $1.2 million for something that's going to continue to occur on our beach. We can clean it at 2 o'clock, or I'm sorry, at 9 o'clock, but at 2 o'clock it's back. So it's up to you guys on how you want to spend it, but we'll look at that. And as far as doing that, and so I'll
Yeah.
meet with
Well, I was just saying that the city of Fort Lauderdale showed how they saved their city $300,000 and $400,000, not because they were continuing to remove it, but because they have a place to,
they have like an itinerary where they actually take
they
it.
go to
Right, they
Snyder
take it
Park
to,
and
right, take
yeah,
it to a park. Right.
exactly. And they're the only ones with the permit, in all of South Florida that has a permit to do that. So, whether you guys talk
Yeah,
about it,
because we're looking at permits because you have to pull a permit with the state. Because
right,
you just can't move stuff off the beach without pulling a
exactly.
permit. So you have to pull a permit, and then we would need a place to also
We
store it.
would love to partner with them
Right.
because
Yeah.
we are not the city of Fort Lauderdale. We don't have the space, the capacity, the resources. But if we can partner with them, then
Right.
then maybe it'll cost more, and we'll give them our seaweed because we use mulch for landscaping. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we've already brought that up as far as partnering with them as well. But we're talking about the manpower that they didn't have and we don't have, so that's not an option. But I'll revisit it again, and we'll look at it again to see what we can do. And I know I talked to Hollywood, I talked to different cities that have beaches. It's
I know.
it's a problem throughout the whole
State.
East Coast. So
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you looking into it. And, nothing gets done without keep trying. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Last call. Nope, no. Okay. Nothing else? Nothing else? No, oh, yes, Frank.
Just one thing I want to circle back to on the personnel. We have 3 positions that are budgeted to start October 1st. And considering that you all accept these positions in the budget, we just want to make sure it's okay. We want to go out and start recruiting for those 3 positions. It's something we haven't done before, so we just want to make sure it's clear to everybody that that's what we want to do.
I'm fine with that. Nope, no issue.
thank
Thank
you so
you.
much.
All right, meeting adjourned.
Great job. When Joyce said that she had 10 more things that she needed.
Paying your City of Dania Beach water bill has never been easier. In addition to online payments, we are now pleased to provide self-service payment kiosks here at City Hall. With the threat of COVID-19 still present, we want to keep you and our staff safe. These payment kiosks will allow you to make payments on your utilities